Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Get in the Herd, a recovery podcast brought to you by the McShin Foundation. I'm your host, Alex Bond, the medication and drug screen coordinator and certified peer recovery specialist here at the McShin Foundation, and more importantly, a person in recovery from a substance use disorder, which means that for over 15 months now, I have not found the need to put any mood or mind-altering substances in my body. I am here with two lovely ladies in recovery, Brandy and Brittney. How are y'all doing?
I'm doing good.
I'm good.
Very happy to have y'all on. So I'm just going to jump right in. Brandy, why don't you introduce yourself first?
I'm Brandy. I'm actually not from the area. I'm from Front Royal. I came down here November the 13th, straight out of RSW Regional Jail that's also in Front Royal. I'd been incarcerated for 4 months before I made it down here. And I just picked up my 6-month chip 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations, Brandy.
Thank you.
Brittney, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, I'm Brittney, and I'm an addict in long-term recovery. I'm from West Virginia. I came down to Richmond with a friend named Zach, who helped me out a lot. Thank God. But I lost my boyfriend to an overdose in April, which made me want to change my life.
Cool. Very happy to have you here. And are you referring to Zach Rubel?
Yeah.
I love Zach. Zach is the man. One of our alumni here really practices a solid program of recovery. So y'all two ladies are both at the Chesterfield Women's House, correct?
We are. That's the intensive house.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that? Because you are now the house leader there, correct,
I am.
Brandy?
Yeah. I started out as assistant like the middle of December. And now I'm house manager, but sometimes it's slow. Like right now it's slow. We only have 5 girls in the house, but the intensive program, you have to go through 28 days, no phone, no TV. It's strictly bonding with the girls. Some girls struggle with that a little bit, but I like it. I like getting close with the girls and getting to know them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so like, how has that process been going from a participant to like an assistant house leader to a house leader? Because that's kind of like its own program over there. So you're kind of Jill, our women's director, and Carla, the assistant women's director, you're like their go-to over there. I mean, their point of contact. So has that been difficult or?
Not really. The only time we leave the house is because the garage was turned into a group room. That's where we do all of our groups. We leave the house to come to the church on Wednesdays, and we leave every night to go to an NA meeting or an AA meeting. But transitioning to that, my 28 days, I had 6 days left, and they asked me to be the assistant. So then now transitioning to that, it's a lot. I didn't realize how much responsibilities, you know, when we see Miss P, who was our old house leader, she's like cleaning, laundry, everything. And then everything on top of that Carla and Jill asked me to do. I mean, it's a lot, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's good. I feel like it's really helpful for your own recovery. And Brittney, so how long have you been there now?
36 days.
36 days. Mm-hmm. And are you having any extra added responsibilities over there as well?
I'm the assistant house leader.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
And so I think that's super cool, especially while, I like the idea that they don't just pull other people off the street. It's people who are participants who've gone through the program. So you understand kind of like what the incoming new participants need, kind of like the care and compassion. Can you kind of give me an overview of what it was like you coming into the program versus now being the person that welcomes people into the program?
Well, in the beginning, it was a lot. It was just a big change. I've never went to treatment before, so it was like a lot of meetings. You had to sit out in the group room all day long, which you don't like when you're not feeling good. And then now it's just a breath of fresh air. Like I get to see the new girls coming in. And I remember when I was first coming in, and it was, a lot for me. So I get to be able to talk to them and help them understand that this is going to help you,
Yeah, kind of get to use your experience to be compassionate toward them is wicked important. So what is that? What does that added responsibility do for your personal recovery, Brandy?
Well, this is my first time in recovery too. And
this is your first time in recovery as well. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that added responsibility makes me feel good because people are trusting me again. Like when I was in active addiction, nobody trusted me. Nobody wanted me to do anything, and now that, people see the growth and that I'm actually, doing this, it feels really good.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely, the ultimate way to give back. Were you like trained up on how to do this stuff, or it's just kind of like
No.
you watched Miss P do it?
Yeah, I had a lot of respect for Miss P, even as assistant. Like I really looked up for her, so she put me in a good spot.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I assume the same is for you, Brittney.
Yeah.
So you haven't really been trained or brushed up on it. You'll kind of just like
Nothing.
work with it as you go.
Right.
Mhm.
And honestly, I have found in my experience, especially in recovery, that I learn by doing more often than not. Have you found that you're learning more about yourself through this process?
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
what?
Like, oh my gosh.
Get real.
No. I learned that I need to hold myself accountable for stuff, because if I can't hold myself accountable, how can I hold anybody else accountable for their own actions?
That's good. That's pretty good. Like, do you have any concrete examples?
Not really. Just no. Mm-mm.
Just
I don't want to put
behavior in
anybody's
general
business out there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And especially when we get in like a leadership role, we're used to having someone hold us accountable, but when that's our job, is to hold others accountable. It's not usually a two-way street. So do you two hold each other accountable, I assume?
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So like, how has it been for you dealing with maybe having a few intakes? Because I know, especially at that house, it kind of fluctuates very easily and quickly, because most people finish their 30 days there and then they move out,
Right.
or they transition to a different house. Is that difficult to deal with? Does that make you like, I don't know, how does that like impact your
Well,
role?
see,
Like, do you have to find things to keep you busy, kind of
A little bit. But see, like it's hard. I'm working on this part of it, getting close with these girls, and then they're leaving or going to a transition house. Like then it gets all sappy or whatnot. But it's hard. And then other things, I have to find things to do. Like when an intake comes in, I got to make up their bed, make sure laundry's kept up, the kitchen. But we also do chores out there, and everybody's got a chore to do, and everybody just pitches in on the slack that we need to pick up.
Is it interesting being like that? I don't know, far away from say like the church or anything like that, because I can imagine like in my head, Chesterfield, that house is every bit of like probably 40 minutes from here, right? Is that difficult to deal with, or does that actually put you at an advantage of creating your own little community out there?
Probably a little of both.
Yeah, I would
For
agree
sure.
with that.
It allows us to bond with the other girls more, and the other girls to bond with everybody else. But then again, at the same time, it's like you're so far away from everything,
Yeah, because we're out there, we can't cross the river for meetings, but we can go to meetings out in Chesterfield and Powhatan and stuff like that.
Okay, so there's like, you guys go to certain Chesterfield like NA meetings and everything. That's pretty cool. Have you found any major differences between say the recovery scene out there versus in Richmond?
Yeah, a lot of them are still in-person meetings. Like I know a lot of Richmond is virtual. I've never been to an in-person meeting here in Richmond, but everybody out in Chesterfield is just so welcoming. Like they're just very warm. Like I have a home group out there, and that's my favorite group of the week. I mean, it's very relaxed, laid back. It's in his garage. I mean, it's just, they make everybody feel welcome, whether you're their home group or not.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's definitely interesting, because the in-person meetings in Richmond have been far and few between sometimes. So what exactly sort of things have you been leading these women in recovery out there in? Because I know they have like some women that come out and do groups, but do y'all do like animal therapy or like yoga or any of that
we
sort
don't
of
have
stuff?
any animals.
But we used to. There used to be horses out there.
See, I thought there used to be horses out there, and there are rumblings that there might be a goat, or an alpaca on the way or something like that.
Yeah.
So what about like yoga? Do you guys do like holistic sort of stuff as well?
When Honesty comes out, she does it. And sometimes Jesse's wife, Kelly Ann, she'll come out and do like some meditation or yoga with us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Brittney, when I had the fortune of, I think maybe like a month or two ago, Brandy, you were in the recovery coach training that I did. And then Brittney, you did that last week. Was that just on a whim, or was that for Like, why did you do that in general?
To be honest with you, I was signed up.
Okay.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it a lot. I learned a lot from it. But yeah, to be honest with you, I had no idea I was going to do it.
Do you use any of the tools in that training now as an assistant house leader
Absolutely.
at Chesterfield?
Absolutely. Like talking to the girls, you got to know how to talk to them so you don't, upset anybody and stuff like that.
So how have you been becoming a role model to these women?
I like to think so.
How have you been doing that?
Oh, goodness. Just by leading by example.
Okay.
Any
like particular ways that we do that, Brandy?
Like I'm done with intensive. So I still go out to groups in the group room. I still go to meetings, even though it's not required for me to, I still do it because I don't want the girls to think, well, she's not doing it. She doesn't, have to. Why do I? So I just try to stay, I'm still doing certain things in the intensive program that the girls are doing.
So you kind of like it. I think that makes a lot of sense because the last thing I'd want to do is say, hey, go to groups while I sit in my bedroom and twiddle on my phone
right.
for the rest of the day.
Right.
Or whatever. That's pretty interesting. So like, how has your first time in recovery, you said you came from RSW jail, correct, Brandy?
Yeah.
Did you, I don't know if did you watch any of the podcasts?
I watched them all.
While you were in jail.
Mm-hmm.
That is super awesome.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, we had two guys on last week that were actually, on the tablets. They had watched the content, but we didn't know that you had actually, seen that. So
she told me that like right before she came on here, and I was like, why is it taking this long to get you on the pod? I mean, that's really cool.
Well, the reason I started watching it because I was locked up with Lisa Madison, and I know she did one of the podcasts, and then I watched them all after that.
Yeah, big fan of Lisa. Love Lisa. She was a guest on here frequently. So was that like your first introduction into the idea of recovery? Was like meeting Lisa and watching the podcast?
Yeah.
Or it had been something that you'd kind of like.
Well, I had started researching a couple of. McShin was one of them right before I got locked up. I just didn't know how to go about getting into the program or a program. So then I did the dog program at RSW 2 years ago, and Diane Lieber, who also is a staff member of McShin, we're pretty close, and we started talking on a weekly basis, and she pretty much, got me in here.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you'd like to say to maybe your fellow inmates at RSW right now?
Just
to those that might be watching you now?
Yeah, you can do it. I mean, don't give up. I know things are crazy right now with coronavirus, and people aren't getting, the programs that they need to, but just don't give up. You'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good advice. Brittney, have you ever been to jail before?
Once.
One time.
In Baltimore.
In Baltimore. That's probably a little rougher, honestly.
It was scary.
What was your experience like? Was it due to maybe your disease that we have, or was it a wake up call, or was it just kind of like a footnote on your journey?
It was definitely a little bit of a wake up call, but not enough to jar me out of doing what I was doing.
It took me a few times before it finally worked, but just from what I'm hearing Brandy say, there is that one moment where you're kind of like, I think I need this, or I think I want this. Did you have that epiphany, or did that happen in jail?
I did right after I got to jail. This is not my first or second or third time in jail, and I've just had enough. I'm just over the whole. I mean, I know it's a disease, and I'll be working at this the rest of my life, but I'm over the whole thing. And
RSW, I'm pretty sure, has like a McShin pod.
They do.
Is that something that you considered but couldn't happen because of the coronavirus, I assume?
Right. Diana had just started coming back in there, and then she was in there like maybe a week or two, and they shut it down because of the corona, because one of the inmates had tested positive.
Damn. So like it actually kind of maybe, set you back a couple months on maybe getting your recovery journey started and getting that intake of knowledge. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That those that are now there don't have that similar experience.
Yeah, because they
others
don't know
can
when they're
have.
going to let her back in at this point.
Mhm.
I mean, I know as of a week or two ago, they have 0 confirmed cases. So maybe it'll start opening back up. But, it's just you have outsiders coming from outside that are bringing the virus in. So
Mhm.
it's hard to maintain.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely not easy. Has there been any sort of, do you still talk to any of the people that you met while you were there?
Yeah, I still can keep in touch with a few of them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are they like interested in getting into recovery? Is that
There 2 of them are.
so that's like a safe relationship that you are actually playing like a role model role to them.
I'm
now
trying.
that you're out communicating with them on the pod that they can watch.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's definitely pretty cool. Do you have any people back home that you're still talking to that might see you as like a role model here, Brittney?
Probably not. A lot of them are still doing the same thing, and don't see change anytime in the future.
So do you think it's your responsibility to try to help them or to just kind of like focus on you?
I need to focus on me right now for sure. And, you can't help somebody that doesn't want your help. You can offer your help and let them know that you're there, but what else can you really do? And where I'm from, it's a small town. So it's like, there's nothing else to do. You're an hour away from the closest grocery store. And it's just like, everybody just, becomes addicts. Basically, I swear, I'm not lying.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like assumed that out in that area, everyone's going to dip into it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So almost most or all of your friends in that community suffer from the same disease. They're just maybe not ready to get help.
Right.
Do you think that's part of maybe like the infrastructure out there is because there isn't help to be offered to them or that they aren't ready to get it?
A little bit of both. Because there isn't much help in West Virginia,
Mhm.
not at all, especially not like this. Like, I really, really enjoy the peer stuff, and there's nothing like that.
Mm-hmm. Is that your experience too?
Yeah, I'm actually from Northern Virginia, but I've been living in Front Royal the last 10 years. And Front Royal, I mean, until they brought the McShin pod into the jail, there was a couple, there's like Boxwood and Culpeper, which is clinical, and so is Edge Hill and Winchester, but Edge Hill, you have to pay out of pocket. Boxwood, you have to have Medicaid to go. Like, there wasn't many options. And it's a small town. Nobody has anything to do. Like, 80% of the town is hooked on drugs because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
Have you found it difficult to have to be confrontational with people as a house leader? That was one thing that I struggled with. So I might be like projecting it a little bit, but like just because this throws me in my heydays talking to 2 like house leaders. So it makes me think of all the times that I had to deal with conflict and learn how to like conscientiously solve or resolve conflicts compassionately without just like trying to shake people down or get them in trouble or anything like that. Have you had to learn different tactics and learn how to kind of buck up and be confrontational, or were you kind of that type of person to begin with? I'm
that type of person to begin with, but jail's made me a lot better. That's a positive on that note, but I haven't had to deal with any conflict yet. I hope it continues that way.
Really?
Yeah.
No conflict.
No conflict.
God, I envy you. So what do you mean by like jails taught you how to be better at that? Just like different types of conflicts or maybe different ways to solve them?
A little bit of both. Like, I did a 2-year bid, and you just have to pick your battles in there. You're going to meet people that cry about everything or start drama about everything or just do it for fun. And if you don't pick your battles, you're going to be in the hole all the time. Mm-hmm. And I did a little bit of whole time. So I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm fortunate enough to say I don't think I have. But some people like choose to get down there because of all those conflicts.
Right.
They're like, I would rather just not deal with any of this drama and go into isolation or whatever. So for sure. Brittney, it's kind of like the same question, but in a different way. Were you prepared for this? Were you asked to be a house leader, or were you just kind of like?
Well, I offered.
You offered.
I offered, yeah. Well, Joe asked me who I would think would be a good house leader, and I said Brandy, and then I said I could be the assistant, just throwing myself out there.
And it was weird because I was going to tell Joe I think Brittney would be a good fit for assistant.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you guys communicate very well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How does that work? Is there like a good cop, bad cop?
No, I mean, Miss P is the one that taught me if there's no communication between us house leaders, it's not going to work. It's going to be a mess. So she's the one that taught me that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep the communication open.
So how do you, have you learned certain skills or techniques on how to like communicate better?
A little bit. I've always been a good communicator, though. I just, I have a big family and we all just communicate. I'm used to talking things out and working through things and confronting the issue,
Like head on.
Yeah. Best way possible.
Maybe you would have been successful in jail.
Maybe. Who knows?
Not like you're not good at jail, but is that like a thing? Being I don't know.
You kind of do have to be good at it because it's either going to get to you and you're going to be miserable the whole time, or you adapt like a chameleon and just be good at it. I mean, and I hate to say it, I don't want to be, but when you've done as much time as I have, you kind of have to be.
Well, yeah, you can definitely learn like certain sets of skills in there that can be useful in the outside world.
Yeah, as bad as that sounds, that's true.
So what are your goals, Brandy? Like what are you intending on I don't know, what's your game plan?
My game plan right now is I still have some legal issues that I'm dealing with.
Okay.
And I'm in no rush to leave. Like I knew the 28 days wasn't going to be enough for me. And that was actually on my con list about coming here because I knew that wasn't enough. And I didn't know that I could transition into a transition house, which I thought I was going to do.
So when they said you got to go to a 28-day program, you were like, easy. I'm going to need more than that.
Well, yeah, I said I was going to need more than that. But my lawyer scared me because he was like, if you don't get through this, we're screwed. Like, you're going to do a lot of time. And I was like, well, that you don't have much faith in me. He said, it's not that I think you're going to fail for drugs or anything. He said, because I've seen people get kicked out of the program for less than that. So I was very nervous coming down here. I was very nervous. Yeah.
What about you, Brittney? What's your game plan while you're here?
Well, when I first got here, I was planning on doing the 28 days and then leaving, going back home. But I see now that that's probably not the best idea. I need to stay here for a little bit longer, work on myself, figure out some, my own issues, and then go from there. I really don't know yet.
Cool. So it's kind of just like playing it by ear right now.
Basically, yeah.
Because I know I ask people not often on this, but sometimes off the record, I guess. Like when they know that they're ready to leave, do you know that or like, is it just, when you know?
Kind of a little bit, but then again, I don't think you ever really know until you do it.
You just got to kind of like pull the trigger.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's very interesting. Todd, you got anything?
Yeah, you had mentioned about your family in West Virginia. You say you come from a larger family. I was just curious, how large is your family?
5 brothers and a sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
sounds like West Virginia.
What?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
we've got a big family.
Well, we've got 5 kids, so we got 1 boy and 4 girls. So but anyways, so I was wondering, like, how, like, have you been able to communicate with them? Like you mentioned about not going back because of the environment, but as far as it goes towards relational aspects, have you been in good contact with your family?
Some of them, not all of them. A few of us have became, addicts, but it's just like I talk to my mom almost every day. She drinks a lot, but I talk to my brother Nathan. He's been sober now for, I think, like 6 months. And then everybody else, I got to push away because they're still doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I was just curious because a lot of families, we've had families on here before, like that have come in remotely. And so I didn't know if maybe this was a way you could get this back to your family. They can kind of see how you're doing.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And so, but that's one avenue. I just, I wanted to mention that. then I can get you that information after we're done. But it's always good for families to see what is going, what is actually going on. I think it's why we do so many of the participant check-ins, because there's always a different story coming through here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always good to have that offer of hope for those family members. So,
Right.
Yeah, and your family can actually like see you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what happens is when I call my mom, she's like, "You sound good," but it's also cool to put like a visual to that audio. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's really cool. Superfan Gwen has a question for you two ladies. What kind of supports do women in recovery need that differ from what men need?
That's a good question. I don't know. As women, we're very, very emotional, and just with our network because we have to build our network when we get here. We don't have anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We encourage the girls to get at least one number a meeting. That way you build and build and build and build on it. And we just need that emotional support, on our bad days to tell us, we're okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it. Recovery isn't easy, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. I've heard a lot of the go-to that I hear a lot of women say when they come in here is, I don't get along with women. I always had guy friends.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a total go-to that I hear at least maybe 75% of women who come in here says, I don't get along with women. I always had guy friends. Is that the same for you, Brittney? Has that's been your experience? So how is like connecting with women, that process work, and how has it been for you personally?
Well, it's been amazing because I'm not used to it. And when you're back to your old self, you don't trust women because the women that you're around aren't trustworthy. They're more than likely going to hurt you in some type of way.
Mm-hmm.
But the women in the house, they're coming in vulnerable. They're coming in, once again, being untrustworthy of other women. So we get to see how they change and mold to become better women and be able to trust somebody.
Yeah.
And be able to have someone to talk to.
So you can see the growth in people
Right.
and how they start becoming vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed, I don't know, maybe like, let me take a step back. So when I look at the numbers in general at McShin, about a quarter of the participants are women, and I think 3/4 are men. So there's roughly like 25 to 30 women in the program, and somewhere between like 75 to like 85 men in the program, generally speaking. That fluctuates due to like the season and intakes or what have you. But do you think that's representative of the recovery community as a whole?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think because McShin only has a certain number of women beds available,
Mm-hmm.
and have more men's houses than they do women's houses.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as a whole, I would say it's pretty equal as a whole, everywhere else.
Sure. So I guess my larger question is like, what can McShin do for women in recovery?
That's
Here.
a hard question.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of women, as mothers, a lot of women are mothers. And I feel like when you're out there, in your mind, you think, I don't want to leave my kids. And that's, in your mind, you're thinking that's my priority, but really it isn't. But in order to be there for your kids, you need to be okay for yourself. And I just don't think a lot of women understand that or put that in the forefront of their minds.
Mm-hmm. I know that we were like talking about the idea of at one point in time having like a mothers in recovery house here, where it'd be like moms and their kids kind of like all, trying to recover together, essential, because it takes away that added anxiety of kind of what we were talking about last week in that training of like when we can give them something to help them out with, they don't have this stress and anxiety about, their son or their daughter, and can focus on themselves more productively, I think. Right. Do you think that's something that would be helpful?
I think so, because I know a lot of the moms are like, I don't have anywhere to put my kids. Nobody's going to watch them. My parents, it's something. I think that would be, very useful around here.
Tight. Did you have a question, Todd?
Well, no, I mean, Alex, we had on After Hours before, we had Carlia Summers from Frederick, Maryland, and she has a home up there on Andrea's house. And so it caters to mothers with children. I think up to the age of
5.
Actually, I think it's up to the age of, don't quote me, but I think it's 8.
Wow.
8, maybe 10. But they actually, and Carly has, they have women that are, go to the hospital, give birth, newborns coming in. And so I know there was a lot of red tape that they had to go through at the beginning. And I'm sure that's a logistical problem. I'm not sure what Virginia's bureaucratic red tape would be, but I know Maryland had, there was red tape. But it's a great concept. And I think it would really go a long way, because as a parent, you're wondering, okay, I'm going someplace new. Where are my kids going to be?
Right.
And you are so focused on what's not there that you're not able to focus on what's right in front of you, being your recovery space. So
I remember she said it was complicated. It was a lot of obstacles and barriers, and it was difficult to put something like that in place, but it was so beneficial that you don't even think about it once it's like up and rolling and something like that. So I don't know. I think it's a great idea. Any other ways that, supports that women need in recovery in general?
I think the family thing is just the biggest issue. Your kids and just staying. A lot of people use, I'm not going to say the excuse, but say, I don't want to leave because of my family. I think it would just play a big role in getting more women into recovery.
For sure. I know that's a way that people go back too. Not even go back out, but maybe that's their way of going back home. People finish the 28 days and say, I got my family that I got to go back home to. That's like the biggest reason that I hear is I got my wife, my house, my car, my dog, my kids, my job, all that stuff. How successful do you think that stuff is if we can't exactly get the full, wealth that a place like this has to offer? I think 28 days is cool. It's better than 0, but I just think that I needed more than that to get my life back.
Well, and they say that 28 days is in the grand scheme of things, like 28 days is like nothing compared to anything in long-term recovery, which is like 6 to 9 to 2 years. Your brain continues to heal the longer you progress. So 28 days is great. I'm not knocking it either.
Not at all.
But I do think that the long. What's the strategy? What's the plan after 28 days? What's that look like? Like, what are you implementing that's the things to think about as well.
For sure.
So
I'm glad you stayed. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a really good idea, and that you can now have this added responsibility to feel productive while you're here too, instead of just kind of like biding your time. And the exact same for you too, Brandy. When I'll be dead honest, I stayed as long as I needed to for court, and because of me personally at the same time, but that was like an added, like, I want to stay here longer, and I need to, because I don't have the finances to move out, and it's going to look better for court.
Right.
I'm just being realistic right now. And it helped me. So if I was like, I'm going to be here, I'm going to take advantage of it as much as possible. I'm going to be a house leader. I'm going to try to volunteer. I'm going to learn as much as I can. Has that been kind of like the same mindset for you, or is it a little less cynical?
At first, when I first got here, that's what it was. But my addiction didn't start until I was 27 years old.
Okay.
So it took me a little while to get here in recovery. And now, even though it's my first time, I've noticed that after 28 days, I wasn't even thinking about court anymore. Like, I wanted to stay here for me. Yeah.
So hypothetically, let's say court goes well. What's the game plan for Brandy after that?
To stay here.
Cool.
At least for a little while.
Okay. And what about like employment?
Well, that's funny that you say that. When I was assistant, Jill was like, I need you to find a job so you can pay your bed fees, and we'll give you a month to do so. Well, I had a job 2 days later, and now that I'm the actual house leader, I had to quit my job so I could be there all the time.
So you quit your job to be the house leader.
I did.
That is a sacrifice for recovery, and I love it. Are you going through a similar experience, Brittney? Do you have a job? Do you have to get a job?
No.
Did Jill tell you that you got to get a job?
No, I'm driving, so that's paying my bed fees.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. See, that's kind of like, I I won't have my license for 2.5 years, but that's the kind of stuff that I like to do is be a house leader, make sure that like my very, that was like the only expense I had was bed fees, cigarettes and energy drinks and food, of course. So it's like, as long as my stuff was covered, everything else was just like bonus, for sure. And the fact that you're driving people, do you have like the opportunity to have one-on-ones with these people and kind of maybe do like recovery coaching type sessions? Or
I haven't had a lot yet, but I'm sure it'll come up in the future.
So I think they call it windshield time. That's what John and a lot of people around here call it, is windshield time. It's just kind of being able to share that quality time in a car with someone looking out the windshield. I think it's very cathartic. Have you had that sort of experience, Brandy? With people?
Yeah. I mean, so I didn't realize, even as assistant, I didn't realize how much the girls trusted me. Like they were coming to me with things, problems, that they had, and that feels good in itself. And then on the way to like the meetings, we are either listening to music and all chit chatting. I mean, we get very close out there.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. Is trust something that you think you earned, or it's something that you build?
A little bit of both. I think you earn it and you build it.
Okay.
Like my mom, when I was in active addiction, she did not trust me. Like if I asked for money, oh, you need a bill paid, let me pay it. You need food, let me buy it. She just didn't. I had to build that trust with her and prove to her that I'm really doing this recovery thing and not, just bullshitting her.
Have you talked to your family, or
I've seen my family. I've been home.
So are they supportive of this journey?
Very.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Have they like come down here and visited and seen what the
my
hell
boyfriend did.
To?
Yeah, my boyfriend did, but my mom, she works all the time, so she hasn't been down here. But when I went home, I went and saw her.
That's cool. So were you in a relationship before coming into recovery?
I did. I didn't do a relationship my first year in recovery. I was already in a relationship.
I'm just being curious.
I know.
I think that's very commendable, to kind of like have that relationship coming in and then still work through. You know what I'm saying? Because you're working on yourself. It's not easy having a partner that doesn't understand that a lot of times.
Well, he's in recovery too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So is that like, have they been in recovery for a while?
About 4 years.
4 years. Okay. So you actually learned a little bit from them.
Yeah. I've known him my whole life. Like we grew up together. So yeah, I've learned a little bit. He relapsed once and I was around and it was just easy for him. And I'm like, I wish I could just stop. And, his mindset is there. I was always jealous of that. And so now that I'm doing it, it feels really good to, be doing it with him.
That's really awesome. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I love learning stuff on this pod. And I'm sorry I'm getting distracted, but there's some banging like
I hear
on
it.
what feels like a window.
Yeah, I hope that if people are listening to this and not watching it, those are not your valves tapping on your car. It's some kind of tapping.
I thought it was you tapping, saying, "Talk to me."
No, that would be very selfish because I would have been tapping for like 20 minutes now.
Yeah, I didn't notice it. Maybe it's been going on the whole time.
It has. I've been looking at it periodically.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep powering through. We might wrap up in the next like 5 minutes anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, you guys want to keep rolling. That's good. But
it is incessant. Yeah, honestly, like it's making me feel a little crazy.
Yeah. I would never tap on a freaking table like that.
The way you were talking last night was crazy.
I was battling the ego last night a little bit. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just take the advantage of this to say like that we are in Richmond Magazine now for like an article about local podcasts and like creating your own podcast. So definitely feel free to like give that a read. That's pretty much it, really. I mean, we're just kind of like a little part of it as an example of, the local podcasting in general. I think Todd probably has a link he can throw on the ticker and
we actually
in the comment section.
We posted it this morning. So if they go to the McShin Foundation Facebook page, they can find it there.
That's cool because this when people hit that link, this will probably be the first podcast that pops up.
Mhm.
So y'all will probably get some views here in the next like week, which is pretty cool. So before we wrap up, I want to ask Brittney, what have you done for your recovery today?
Took somebody to their doctor's appointments, which helps me be responsible.
It helps you be responsible.
Mhm.
That's so nice.
I know.
Isn't it cool to like drive and be trusted with driving and not have to like
Yes.
look in the rear view waiting for the blue and red lights to pull you
I
over?
find myself still looking back if I see blue lights, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's old habits die hard.
Yes, isn't that
For
the
sure.
truth?
What about you, Brandy? What have you done for your recovery today?
I actually helped with a new girl coming in. I did her baseline and took her to a group, and it feels good giving back.
It always does feel good giving back. And Gwen's also asking, what message do you have for listeners who are incarcerated?
Just to keep your head up and that it'll all be better eventually.
Brandy?
It's hard to keep your head up when you're in jail, and especially when you don't know how long you're going to be there. So I would tell them, your time's coming. I know courts are slow because of this pandemic, but it's coming. Just don't give up. Be positive.
Yeah, power on and be positive.
Right.
Like being positive is such like an easy answer for me personally. Like that's what I still tell people on the first day that I meet them. It's like, how are you? Are you okay? Are you hungry? Word of advice, just be coachable. Like be
Right.
coachable and be positive, and everything else will kind of like wash over you, I feel like, and you can kind of like sponge the information pretty easily.
So
Todd.
I'm going to actually field Gwen's other question that just came up here. Who may be listening to this podcast? We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music. There's like probably 8 other platforms that are that are smaller. So we do have an extremely broad reach. So anyways, so that may be one of any of those people may stumble across it, because I made sure that the keywords were, had addiction in there. If somebody's looking for that, it's easily accessible. So that was, sorry, I wanted to.
No, I think that's really important. And from like the demographics, I think we do have more women listeners than men listeners. Yeah, at least through like Facebook and stuff like that.
Facebook, yes, but actually the audio podcasts are the opposite. It's 66% men, and it's 25 to 33, and then it drops down to like going above that. So what is it? 25 to 35, and then 35 to 45. And then it's 33% women. So I think that's why it's really important to have like that.
I'm really happy that you guys are on, is because like y'all, whether you know it or not, are probably helping women in recovery or find recovery right now, like as we speak. So I'm really thankful and grateful to have y'all on.
Thank you for having
sure.
us.
Yep. Thank you.
Any final thoughts, Brittney?
Nope.
No,
Nothing
to close out with. Brandy, any final thoughts for you?
The only thing that I have to say is like I never dreamed that I'd be here right now. Like just from being in the intensive program for 28 days and then thrown into assistant house manager and then house manager. Like you guys out there can do it. Like just don't put your mind to it and you can get it done.
That's awesome. Todd, thank you for another wonderful show. Any final words from you?
No, I'm good. I'm hoping that woodpecker doesn't show back up here.
It stopped. It subsided for a second.
Because I texted Matt and I was like, "Can you take care?"
I don't know what it was. We'll find out. I'll do some investigating.
We'll get to the bottom of this. So.
Continue y'all's great work, ladies. I really appreciate the work that y'all do, and thank you for coming on. Shout out to Todd, our producer. Shout out to all those watching and listening. This has been Get in the Herd. Peace out. Thanks.
My name is Shannon Lance. I'm currently here in recovery at McShin Foundation. I got out of jail on January 10th, 2021. And while I was incarcerated there, my mother passed away due to COVID complications on December 14th. It was a really challenging event in my life. While I was incarcerated there, I I watched the recovery videos and the podcast on the tablets there, that was made by the McShin Foundation. Getting the Herd podcast is really made me feel like I was a part of something on the outside, because, there's people that are commenting and just seeing, people that I was incarcerated with on the videos, and just thinking, man, that's going to be me, before too long. And, I'm going to be sitting there in them rooms and, be able to be a part of the podcast and getting the Herd series. And, now I'm a part of the Herd here at McShin, and it's an amazing feeling. And it's nice having a fulfilled sense of hope in my life currently. And just to live one day at a time, and just to have positive feelings in my life and good relationships with, my family and friends is an amazing event.